Business Source is proudly sponsored by JCH Communications. When it comes to marketing, we mean business. From websites to videos, we can guarantee you a return on your investment. Take a look now on our website at our video, www.jchcom.com. Hi, and welcome to Business Source, brought to you by Connecting Business, the show that gives you authentic conversations to help your business. There's no smoke and mirrors, just real people sharing their experiences. I'm your host, Lee Nightingale, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Tim Hughes, founder of DLA Ignite. Tim is a vastly experienced sales professional, business owner, and successful author. Tim, hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us today on Business Source.
Hi, Lee. Great to be here. Really excited. Love talking to you.
Thank you. We've got quite a lot to get through today because we're seasoned veterans. We've got a long career behind us that brings with it lots of experience and knowledge that we can pass on and share with others, and that's really what what Business Source is all about, sharing our experiences and knowledge with other people to hopefully help them along their way in business. And I know within DLA Ignite that's what you're doing there, focusing on the sort of social media aspects. Just a very sort of brief synopsis on your career. We both sort of started out where all sales professional people should be, and that's at the bottom. You know, the hardest job in the world, the cold calling, the hard selling, getting told to just smile and dial, and giving very little in the way of training and coaching along the way. And then sort of working our way through the ranks, working for much larger companies, startup companies. So I wonder if you could just sort of give us a brief career histories, just so we can get a feel for the types of organizations you've worked within and the experience that you've now got.
Yeah, thanks, Lee, and thank you for having me on. Yeah, I started, cold calling. I was given a printout and said, call that. I didn't know anything about how to call or how to make or anything. Nowadays everyone seems to be given training. I wasn't given any training at all. It was just go away and ring that. I started, selling payroll and human resources software, and then moved into accounting software. But most of my career has really been based around selling accounting software. And the last big company I was at was Oracle, and I've been there twice. And certainly for 20 years, I either worked at Oracle or within their ecosystem of partners. Yeah, so that's the sort of companies I've worked for.
Yeah, I mean, clearly it is still huge. I've some experience, limited, but exposure to it. I was working for Sphinx CST, now Arrow ECS, and they were a huge Oracle distributor, and I was working within their security team, and it was yeah, I mean, there was just a massive revenue house, so yeah, experience of that. And then am I right in saying you work with sort of partner companies like Fujitsu, another well-known brand name?
Yeah, so I either worked in Oracle or worked for organizations like Fujitsu, who were reselling Oracle. So it was still within the Oracle family, so still selling the accounting systems. So Oracle have, I don't know, 20,000 partners, and there's a big channel of that. So I worked in that.
Yeah, again, there's similarities there, having worked within channel for me, reseller, distributor, vendor. It really is a great training ground and wonderful experience, because you kind of get to see it at all the different levels, and when you go and work for that main vendor, you're able to sort of share your insights about what it's like at the coalface, and what the pains are right throughout the process of selling. And that's very common within B2B environments, certainly tech environments, less so in the business to consumer, I suspect, although I'm sure there is some sort of tiering, but that channel model is definitely traditional.
I think for me that I was very lucky to get onto a graduate scheme
Right.
at what was ICL, so International Computers, which is now Fujitsu. And that really, that you were put through a course, time management, presentation skills, how to read a set of accounts, all of those things. And I mean, the presentation skills I still use today. I mean, they set me up for life. And I would recommend anybody who was looking to move into IT, then something like that would be really helpful. But I think well, I mean, one of the things that I learned, this is a bit kind of strange, is that you can't know about everything. And I think what we used to find is that there used to be people used to come into Oracle and they would try and find out everything was going on. And in fact, you can't do that.
No.
And maybe it's because I'm a big delegator. I'll delegate everything out, I love delegating stuff out. And maybe it's because of that, but you just cannot, some of these companies are just so big, you cannot know what's going on and understand every single thing, and you kind of need to sit in your swim lane and just keep and do your own thing.
Yeah, and I guess for me that was why I really enjoyed the scale-up environment, where it was a little bit more close-knit, a little bit more sort of family environment, where
Yes.
you were asked to put multiple hats on. The startup bit is really, really difficult, in that beginning phase, but hugely rewarding. And having started our own businesses, we know what that's like, and having worked within startups, we know the challenges that brings. And having to bring all of that experience together, from all of that sales operations, into starting our own companies. There's a tendency to, I guess, a bit like the builder not working on his own house. You've got so much to do, just like in any startup, that sometimes things do get left.
And you have to work out what the priority. You have to work out what the priority is. I
Absolutely,
mean,
yeah.
running my own business, I have to know about all kinds of things. From tax to accounting to how to sell, or I have my own channel, so how to manage a channel and manage the conflict within that. So there's all kinds of things that no day is ever the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really want to focus on that selling element, because you're a strong believer that the quote unquote interrupt selling model doesn't really work these days. Do you want to expand on that?
Yes, well, I mean, all the research shows that. I mean, from McKinsey, Google, I've currently got 12 pieces of current research, as in that's been taking place during the pandemic this year, all show that people have basically had enough of being interrupted by cold calls, emails, and adverts, and we don't look at any of them, and we generally ignore it. I mean, I saw something on Twitter which made me laugh just the other day, which was Black Friday, and the person said, "Isn't it great with Black Friday, where all these companies basically email you, and you just use the opportunity to unsubscribe from it all?" Which is true. I mean, our lives are cluttered enough. I mean, Oracle said recently that we get about 10,000 messages a day. So if you look at any company, you can go out and get the best. You can go and get the best copy. You can have the best photography. You can fly supermodels to the Atlas Mountains and get the best photographer and produce what you see as the best piece of a brochure or piece of copy. But you're just one of those 10,000 messages. And that's the problem and the challenge for companies today.
Do you think that's because we don't have time for that anymore? Or do you think that, because you just said there, you can produce the best, what you think is the best, and what statistics say is the best, and what the market says is the best, but it's still not working?
And post it out at the best time on social media or whatever, and nobody's interested, and that's because we're too busy. We get bombarded by messages. Everybody does it. I mean, you have to look at some of the companies that I've worked for and then look at their competitors. They say exactly the same. or everybody says buy my product because it's great. You know,
Mm.
if I go to market and say my product's the best, what are you going to do? Well, yeah, you're going to say, well, of course you're going to say that, Tim,
You're not
because
going to say it's the second best, are you?
you're not. No, yeah, exactly. No one's going to say it. No one goes to the market and says my product's crap. So what happens? I mean, you only have to look at LinkedIn. It's just a complete sea of noise.
Mm.
I know that you're a big rugby fan, and you know it's a bit like shouting at the rugby match. I mean, does anyone actually hear you? You know, it's just a sea of noise, and marketers just seem to want to keep throwing more and more money in it. And part of that is because you've got a whole bunch of marketing agencies that are happy to take their money to, and you know, you see on LinkedIn marketing agencies basically fulfilling the prophecy and telling people what they should be doing is spending their money in this particular way. Well, of course they're going to say that.
So do you
Vested
think
interest.
it's a case of he who shouts loudest, i.e., he who throws the most money at it, theoretically should get heard? The more
But
money you chuck at it.
it's not the case. I mean, but if you take, you know, this
But is that
podcast.
what they're selling? Is that
Well,
the
in a
concept?
way they are. What in a way, and
Yeah.
they are, and you know, I saw somebody from. I'm connected to a number of marketing agencies because I've used them before, and it's like, oh, look at this advert from Mercedes. It's like, well, yeah, but it's Mercedes. You know, this podcast is for people, you know, small, medium enterprises. You don't have 250 million whatever pounds, coins, or whatever to spend on, you know, like Mercedes do. You know,
Mm.
Mercedes spend how many millions on winning Formula One? And you know, they've got that sort of marketing money, and you can't, you know, you can't say, right, we're going to take, you know, I've got a guttering company in Kingston, and we're going to suddenly be a recognizable brand. It doesn't work.
No, true. I mean, it's got to the point where I guess some brands almost don't need to market anymore. That the word of mouth and the desire from the people, their target market, is such that they're going to them without any kind of outbound
Well,
marketing.
absolutely. I mean, a lot of people come to me and say, "What about Nike? What about Levi? What about Mercedes? What about BMW? What, you know, all of these?" Well, yes, but they're not a guttering company in Kingston. You know,
Mm.
you will have out there in B2C land recognizable brands, Adidas or Adidas if you're in the States, and of course you always have that. But they built their brands and spent millions and do spend millions. But
Mm.
your average small medium enterprise, nobody knows and nobody cares. And what happens is you have this whole bunch of salespeople basically just annoying people by ringing them up. You know, I have my phone set, you know, at IS13. Anybody who I don't know, it just goes straight to voicemail. And
Mm.
these people are leaving me voicemails, and then they stop leaving me voicemails, and then they stop calling me. And that's what everybody's happening to everybody. Nobody cares. Nobody's interested. You know, you didn't get up this morning and think, oh, the worst thing that could happen to me today is I get called by some manipulative salesperson trying to sell me something I don't want and I don't care about. And we've all had enough of it. The same with adverts and emails. You know, and it's got to the point now where everybody knows there's a different way. Everybody knows that if I want to buy something, I just use the internet. You know, there's now 53% of the world's population, 4.14 billion people active on social media. And because of the pandemic, we live our lives on social. And we're used to doing that. You know, I was out with I saw my mother very on a socially distanced way this weekend. And you know, she's active, and you know, she runs her wine groups on Zoom. And you know, when lockdown
Yeah.
started, this was like a massive. Oh, we could never do that, and now they do it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
becoming the
she
norm.
even said, my
From
my
these
my
people
partner,
that couldn't, from the
my
people that
partner,
couldn't program a VCR back in the day.
yeah. My partner took a photo, and my mum actually said to her, she said, "Will you airdrop it to me?" And we went, "Airdrop? How do you know about that?" She said, "I know about this stuff now." And I think it's the same. And you know, you get emails from people, and you go, "You sad person." I mean, if you now get a cold call or an email, it means a number of things. The organisation is desperate, and they're advertising that by using these methods. And it also shows that the people head of sales and marketing have run out of ideas because they don't know what to do. They all know it doesn't work, but they won't know what to do. And all they're doing is telling people is you have to send more emails and make more phone calls. And we all know it doesn't work.
Yeah. So speaking of that 4 billion people, of that, clearly the people that we're trying to target, the decision makers, the C-suite or C-level, I believe you like to call it, they have mobile phones, they have social media.
Yep.
Or do they? Because I don't believe they're truly active on social media. They might have a Facebook account and they might have a Twitter account, and they've certainly got a LinkedIn account, but they don't do the posting.
What we usually do, we get this question a lot, Lee. And what we usually do, we just get Sales Navigator out and go and go, there's all your clients. Who are your clients? Okay, here they are. This is where they're active. This is where they're active. And everyone go, oh, right. And then we still get them saying, oh yeah, but they're not really active. Because no, we've just shown you that they're active. Now, what you got to remember also is that the average buying team now is 10 people. So Gartner says the average buying team is 10 people. So, okay, so let's assume that one of those buying team is not active on social media. Let's assume 3 or 4 of those people are not active on social media. That still means 6 of the buying team are active on social media. And so, you know, we got people like Microsoft, the sales team at Microsoft Azure. They actually find people active on social media, and they know that what they do is that these people are called change makers. And what they do is that they find these people, and they know that these people will take content and share it into the organization. And they know that all they have to do is because there are people out there who share on social media, strangely enough, and they know that these people do, and they know that sharing is a part of what their psyche is. And they just keep providing them with information and sharing it. And it's part of their competitive advantage that they use against or part of their sales process.
Would I be right in saying that, you know, so this team of 10 that you're talking about, or 6 because 4 on social?
Yeah, whatever you want. There'll be one on active. Well, be one active.
There's going to be at least one. They aren't direct reports to these C-level people necessarily, are they? Are they all executives? Or do they tend to be from different levels in the organization?
Well, you know, there will be people that are active. I mean, if you take millennials are now 30. You know, millennials are actually decision makers. So you've got people who have been brought up in social media who are active social media users. But you will always get, I mean, you know, I'm C-level in my business, but I'm not the person to sell to. What you do is you sell to people within my organization who may not have authority, but they have influence. And they'll be the people that will say, Tim, we need to buy this. And that's what we've always done in sales, is that we've always needed to find different people at different levels within the organization and get them all to ultimately say they want to buy what we were selling. And so, I mean, even trying to think, I was going to say, you know, I did a lot Y2K, so that's like 20 years ago. Wow. You know, even then you had user buyers, you had influencers, you had the C-level, you had to deal with procurement, you had to deal with finance because you needed a business case. So you've always dealt with multiple layers and multiple people.
Yeah, and I'm interested to get your view on this. What I'm finding is that generally people can't be sold to anymore because they already know what they want to buy, and the likelihood is they already know the vendor they want to buy from because they've already done their research. You know, if I guess, like, if we wanted a new mobile phone, we don't wait for EE or Vodafone to phone us and say, hey, do you want this latest and greatest? We go online, we research it, we find the best deal that we believe we can find. We look at some reviews, we type in what's great about this phone, what's not so great about this phone. And then when we believe we've made the decision to buy the product we want to buy and who we want to buy it from, we then phone them. So it's flipped itself on its head, and then we start bartering and negotiating with them.
I totally agree. You know, I've had my Mini now for what, 5 or 6 years, but I knew when I looked at the cars, which car I wanted, and I know that when I went and looked at the Audi TT, I knew I was actually just going through the process of confirming I wanted the Mini. And people have been doing this for years. And the salespeople's reaction to it is trying to qualify harder. And it's not actually what we need to be doing. Is getting earlier in the sales cycle and actually finding these people, and actually, because when you're going through that process of, do I know which car I want to buy? Because there was a point when I knew I wanted a Mini, but there was a point before that, which is where I actually said I didn't know what I wanted. And I think one of the problems that we have with, well, one that I don't have the problem, but other people have the problem who do interruption marketing. So like anybody who cold calls, who send emails or adverts, what they're doing is that they're driving people to their competitors. And the reason for that is, if I come to you and say, here's an iPhone, it's the best phone in the world, we'll do what you just said, which is we'll go online and we'll research it. So if you basically ring me up and say, I've got a timeshare for you in Malaga, you go, okay, that's really interesting. Can you leave it with me? And then you go, I actually quite fancy a timeshare. No, I actually won't want to buy it from that company because I can get it from cheaper over here. Or whatever it is. And the thing is that we now have so much power that what you're doing by ringing people up, and apart from annoying them and sending them emails and annoying them, is actually you're going, oh yeah, I never thought about that. Oh yeah, I can buy it 20% cheaper here.
So how do we differentiate ourselves then? How do we get?
But nobody differentiates themselves, Lee, because everyone says, you know, I get so many emails and calls saying buy my product because it's great. And what people forget is that, you know, who's the most important person in the world? I am. But what you do is you write about yourself. So you're saying, we're number one. And I go, I don't care, because there's nothing to do with me. Yeah, well, we've got all these clients. Interesting, but it's nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And the whole narrative around sales and marketing is broken because people keep writing about themselves and their company and how great they are. Go onto any website. All websites are based around broadcast marketing. Here's the company. Here is our products. This is how great we are. Doesn't help me. Here's our management team. And it's like, no, again, it doesn't help me. And everybody does this.
So
we're seeing we're seeing this diversion of this diversion taking place in the marketplace between analog companies and digital companies. I mean, you know, the example is BMW, who are clients of ours. Last November, so 12 months ago, before the pandemic, they got 28 pieces of inbound on LinkedIn. They converted 14 of those to sales. So say the average BMW was £50,000, so that's £700,000 worth of extra business they've got for zero marketing spend. Not bad business. The great thing about it is that during that month, Jaguar Land Rover, and you can check this, it's all online. Jaguar Land Rover went to the marketplace and said, we're cutting back our building the cars because we're not selling anything. And we're not selling anything because there's Brexit and there was a general election in the UK and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, it's exactly the same environmental conditions that BMW had. But BMW was able to sell an additional 14 cars. We've been to Jaguar Land Rover, and they said, actually, we're very happy, thanks. We don't need any help with selling. But what you see is this conversions taking place of digital companies and analog companies. And that was taking place before the pandemic. And this has been accelerated during the pandemic because all your customers are now online. They are now online. You know, this thing about our customers are online. They are online because of what's happened during the pandemic. you know, there's been an acceleration of people coming online. What we need, what companies are needing is that they need to move away from this movement of actually pushing people away using sales, and actually using social and bringing people to you, not spamming people on social. You know, even this morning I've got, you know, connect with me because I've got this great product. No, not interested.
Let me start on that one, Tim.
And you know, what people want is, they want, first and foremost, they want a permission to grant to talk to salespeople. And the next thing they want to do is to build a relationship. Now, neither of those things take a long time. They can take, you know, for example, I get C-level meetings from using stories on LinkedIn. That doesn't take me a long time. I just put a picture up and then get into a conversation with people. And what social allows you to do is to have a conversation, rather than hello, it's Tim Hughes and I work for this company and I've got this, and we've lost the art of conversation. And what social does is it provides you an ability, whether you're in sales or marketing, is to have a conversation with your prospects and your customers.
Right. So what you're saying is, or what I'm hearing is that even the traditional digital marketing is history now, and there's a new way of doing digital marketing.
Well, it's not exactly new. You know, I did, you know, sending emails to people is 1990s technology. You know, it's 30 years old. And sending people thousands of emails saying buy my products because it's great. People just don't want that. And all marketing technology seems to do is provide you with a more efficient way to send more and more emails that nobody wants. You know, all of the research, I've got 12 pieces of research from McKinsey and Google and all of these companies saying we don't want when they talk to clients, they say, no, I don't want to be bombarded with emails. I don't want to be bombarded with cold calls. So if you look at the you know, HubSpot, who sell email marketing,
they do.
They came out and said that email marketing has a 98% failure rate. I mean, how can you stand up in front of your board as a marketer and say, what we're going to do is we're going to do a marketing approach that's a 98% failure rate? And it's just, I don't know, you know, when there's methods like I have that can, you know, increase your sales by 30%, reduce your sales cycle by 40%, why would you go into and start annoying people with 98% failure rate types of marketing methods? You know, all the research says it doesn't work anymore. You know, digital advertising, again, has a 98% failure rate. No, there may be people that say, I ran a campaign that got this. Yeah, you ran one, but you know, if you want C-level meetings, that, I had my business partner and I, we went in to see a very large B2B enterprise company, and they said, oh, we're going to spend all money. We want to get C-level meetings, and we're going to spend all our marketing money on pay-per-click. We couldn't stop laughing.
No, that's,
I mean, you know, C-level people. Oh yeah, I've got 10 minutes. I'm running from one meeting to the next. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go online and I'm going to click on links. Really? You know, link clicking is spamming. Nobody clicks on links anymore. It's spam, you know, because you know it's spam.
Yeah, I guess it depends on.
It doesn't work anymore.
Depends on your product. I guess, you know, if you're B2C, where it's a transactional, low cost, high volume, you know, just plaster your name everywhere and people will click and buy it. You know, that's one thing.
Lee, I'm not arguing. I work in the B2B enterprise space. And you know, if you have low value, you know, I get people ringing me up saying, I've got 2 tickets for Twickenham. You know, they're £800 each. Have you got your credit card? Do you want them? And you know, you can sell that sort of thing over the phone because it's a transaction. It doesn't need, you know, it's an expenses item. It doesn't need sign off. Sure. But anything where it's a a buy process where you have to think like a BMW. Do I need to buy this one, or do I need to buy the smaller one, or should we buy one for the because we need should we buy the X3 or the X5? Anything where it's a considered purchase, especially in the world of B2B, people don't buy like that anymore.
Interesting. So, without giving too much about your approach away, I think it's important, considering we've just bashed the traditional methods. If Bob's plumbing company or guttering company in Kingston wants to increase his exposure,
not by radio ads, I can tell you that.
Get brand awareness, yeah. Because how do they go about doing that? And I think about someone like Pimlico Plumbers. They've got a really cheerful brand. I used to go past their offices on the train. You look at their vans, and you remember the vans, and you remember the way they look, because they're kind of halfway between old school and modern. And he's always got a plumbing related registration plate. It kind of just makes you chuckle. So anytime anybody says anything to do with plumbing, not that I use Pimlico, I always think Pimlico. So that's creative branding.
So I was the I wrote my first book, Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Change Makers. And anybody who wants to get involved in understanding anything about social, I always recommend that. Not because I wrote it, but it's a relatively small investment in terms of, it's what, like 20 quid on Amazon, sold on Amazon worldwide. If you want to understand what's changed about the world, then it's about that gives you gives you the basics. It's not about me or my journey. It's a handbook to make you understand about the way that the world has shifted to people actually being on social. The big issue that people have is that they still use social media as a tactic, and so people are still posting pictures of their lunch and cat photos. That's very true. And what they do is that it's seen as a tactic. So one of the things you see is that companies, the VP of sales will post a picture. They'll send an email around, and they get all their direct reports to like it. And if you say to them, so what happened? They go, oh no, we just posted a picture. Okay, so how many meetings did you get from it? Well, none. Yeah, well, why not? Every time you post something on social, you should be strategically understanding why you're posting it, not as a content calendar from a marketing perspective, but as a salesperson. I should know why I'm posting something, and I should have been given the ability to know how to monetize that post. We know, because we said it earlier on, that our clients are on social. We know, because we said it earlier on, that we're looking at content. We know that our clients are therefore on social and looking at content. So why are we not strategically placing content that we know that will interest them, not saying buy my product because it's great, but providing insight and education, just like you said with Pimlico Plumbers. You're going on the timeline and go, oh look, there's Tim Hughes. Oh yeah, he always posts interesting articles. Oh yeah, look, there's Lee Nightingale. Yeah, he always posts. Oh, he's got that podcast, isn't it? That's really interesting. Yeah, I need to. Oh yeah, he's got that. We've got Tim Hughes on. I need to listen to that. And what we're doing is that we're providing people with insight and education, because that's, as business people, that's what we want. This podcast is exactly, what you're doing is you're educating people, and you're giving people the insight from your various interviewees. It's a classic piece of content. But what we need to be able to do as salespeople is being given the tools to actually say, I'm going to post this piece of content for this particular reason. I know it's going to appeal to my my clients. How am I going to monetize this once I've posted it?
Yeah, very, very true. And I guess my philosophy and my belief for the podcast, and I don't mind sharing this because it's also part of my philosophy in being transparent and open and honest about this thing. it wasn't about increasing the brand awareness of connecting business. That, yes, is a byproduct of what I'm doing here. And if business comes of it, then that is great. You know, the very fact that I'm posting content is marketing, it is advertising. But at its core, this podcast is absolutely meant for helping others. And if people see that along the line as that I'm just doing it for marketing, then they're missing the message. You know, they're missing the essence of what this is about.
But Lee, you're providing a podcast which is helpful.
Correct.
And what
Yeah.
you're doing is that you're interviewing a whole bunch of people that is helpful. And what you're what happens is that then people will go, there's Lee. He's got a really helpful podcast. And then what happens is that if someone's got salesforce.com, they'll go, there's Lee from he posts a really interesting podcast, and I've got salesforce.com. He knows something about salesforce.com. I tell you what, why don't we give Lee a call? We got a problem with our why don't we give Lee a call and get him in?
Yeah.
And no, you may not be setting out to do that, but that is an outcome that will happen.
Yeah.
And if what I'm saying to you, so this isn't about you, this is about other salespeople. If salespeople are basically out there helping and actually providing educational and insightful content, there will be people out there, the people that are looking for their products and services and going, do you know, look, there's Steve. He always posts that. We've got that. We need a new email marketing system. Why don't we give Steve a call? You know, I get the amount of inbound I get's gone down in the pandemic, so I still get a piece a day of people basically saying, we got a problem, can you help us?
Sure.
Not all of those convert, but it's one a day that I don't have to actively prospect. And usually they've already done, it's a bit like the car thing, they've already gone out and they've already done things. You know, I got contacted by somebody the other day that had already done hints and tips training and stuff on in the States, and I said, so how did that work out? They said, well, it didn't work. I said, well, yeah, it doesn't, because this is the other thing about social, Lee, is that it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. You know, a jigsaw puzzle isn't complete unless you've put all the pieces in, and there's a lot of people out there selling the edges, and they don't sell the rest of it. And unfortunately, it's binary, which means it's either 1 or 0. So it's either, so you can do 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, but that's still 0. And so therefore, you need to be doing the whole piece. You need to be getting all the ones in line.
So what can people be doing then, Tim, to do something different? I'm not saying that my approach with this podcast is the be all and end all, and it's the best way to do it. It's just a way. It's part of that jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, it's a piece of content, and people consume different pieces of content. Some people will watch podcasts. Some people will read articles. Some people like looking at small pieces of video. But you know, the three things you need to have a personal brand, you need to have a network, and you need to have content. So a personal brand is your shop window. Your LinkedIn profile is your shop window to people searching for you. It's how you stand up on social and say, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is my purpose. And you know, if we were teaching someone the other day, and they said that what they wanted to be known as a data-driven salesperson. So I said, if I ring you up and say, hey, I'm a data-driven salesperson, what would happen? And they said, oh, I'd put the phone down. I said, yeah, so why are you putting that on your LinkedIn profile? Because the first thing I do when I say, oh, I'm a data-driven salesperson, is go, let's move on to let's go and look at the competition. So you know, what we need to be doing is we need to be putting ourselves out as humans, because as humans, what happens is that you actually bring people to you. If you're a salesperson, it pushes people away. And so what we need is what we call a buyer-centric. It needs to be centric around buyers.
Yeah, and this, I guess, if I think about the number of LinkedIn profiles that I've looked at of people just reaching out to me saying, hey, it'd be great if we can connect for no reason. And you look at their bio and that top bit, it's almost like they've done a copy paste from
Yeah,
everybody
and
else's.
you know
It
what
just looks the
happened? They'll
same.
connect to you. They'll connect to you, Lee, and immediately go, "Hey, I've got this app that allows you to get more parking spaces out of your car park."
Yeah.
And you say, "Look, I don't have an office," and they say, "Yeah, but I've got this app that's like, but I don't have an office."
Yeah.
Um, and you know that as soon as they have this thing that says how brilliant they are, there's this guy I came across the other day that said he'd been on Quota Club or whatever 4 times. And I know it's really important to him, but A, it's not important to me, and B, I just know he's going to try and sell me something. So it's like, why would I connect to you? So the next thing you need to do is to build a network. So not contacts, but a network. So you need to take your, I've got my business cards. You take your business cards and connect to everybody. We met 2 years ago. I didn't send you a connection request at the time because I didn't think it was worth it. But we exchanged business cards. Can we connect? Just something simple. And you just need to move your network online. And actually, it's more efficient and effective because allows you to scale. Because if I make a cold call, it's really inefficient because I'm basically having a conversation with you one-to-one. Whereas, and I'm giving you my, I'm basically broadcasting my message to you. Whereas I've got something like 20,000 connections on LinkedIn. And I basically, every time I broadcast something, I broadcast it to 20,000 people, which is obviously far more efficient than one-to-one. So you take your network and you put it online. And then you need content. And you need content that when someone lands on your LinkedIn profile, what it needs to do, it needs to show who you are, what you stand for. So best way to describe it is, before we started recording, we had a conversation with, "Hi Lee, how you doing? Yeah, so how's it going at the moment?" "Well, I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this." "Oh, that's great. And what are you doing, Tim?" "Well, I'm doing this." And what we do is that we build rapport. And your current people's LinkedIn profiles don't build rapport. And what they need to do is actually to do that, which is why you need to be talking about your why, not your what. Anyone who says, "I'm passionate about digital transformation," or "I'm passionate about social selling," don't know what they're talking about. You need to have your why, because when you understand somebody and understand what they stand for, just like we did at the beginning of the meeting, it actually brings you closer. And as soon as you do that, what we do is, it means even before you've actually spoken to the person, you go, "I think I trust this person."
Absolutely. So two things that I'm getting from that is you're showing the human element,
Yes.
that you're not just a salesperson trying to sell a product, and because everybody knows that you're trying to sell a product or a service. What you're doing is you're saying, "Hi, this is who I am. I am Lee Nightingale. This is who I am. This is what I stand for." And I think that's why I believe that these podcasts and things like this podcast, and why video is much better, is that you can be that way. You can show that side to yourself. I don't see the need to sit here on podcasts like this wearing suit and tie, jacket, and all rigid and formal, and doing this fireside chat thing where we're just talking about our products. People want to see the real
Does
you.
anybody actually really watch those things, Lee?
No, they're for sales conferences, aren't they? Really, a
Nobody
bit
watches.
rah-rah.
Come on, nobody's, because they know that it's, anybody that's wearing a suit now, and anyone who wears a tie nowadays. I haven't worn a tie for for 10, 15 years, but anybody wearing that, you'd go, "Oh my God, that's going to be desperately dull." And those
I do
fireside,
occasionally like to wear them just because I like it. It's not that it has a purpose. Just sometimes, because you do
I've worn
wear
one.
your
I wore
slacks
one
a
to
lot.
a wedding, and it was quite nice. Because it's a bit of a change, but those fireside chats, the amount of people that post stuff on LinkedIn, and you go, "God, that's just desperately dull. Does anybody watch that?" And then you go, "Oh, look, it's got 15 likes. That's fantastic." And you go in, and it's all the people from the same company that have liked it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the problem is with that is that most people don't have a network. Most people, all their network is recruitment consultants and ex-colleagues. So even though
yeah.
they've liked it, it's not been put in front of the audience that they want to influence. So they're wasting the time. It's just a random act of social. Again, it's a tactic, and they're not taking. They have to take social strategically.
Absolutely.
And stop doing fireside chats.
Tim, I'm curious to get under the hood, if you like, of Tim. We've just heard some wonderful insights and experience into how you help people, businesses. But what's the real Tim? Tell us what's been going on for you since January. Let's not just say since March, but since January this year. Transitioning through into that lockdown period. How's life changed for you? How did you cope? What have you done to keep yourself busy, sharp, motivated, focused, whatever you want to call it, fit, healthy? What mindset have you had during these last few months?
Well, I've worked from home for years, so in a way it wasn't that much different. But so while it was sunny, we actually did 10,000 steps in the evening. But now in the UK, anybody who's from the UK gets dark at 4 o'clock. So
yeah.
So I've actually started running again. So I'm now doing 5K 3 times a week, which is great. There's an app called Calm, which my partner's 25-year-old suggested, and it's got meditation on it and stuff. So I've done a meditation course,
Nice.
which is it really actually helps you focus. I'm a big reader. I will have read 30 books this year.
Interesting point there that psychologically, I don't know if you've noticed, but in England, we measure distance in miles. Our cars are in miles. We look at the road signs, it says miles.
Yeah.
As soon as it comes to running, we want to make it sound like we ran a long way, so we use K.
It does, yeah. It becomes 5K, yeah.
Yes. We don't say 3.1
it's 3 miles, or it's
3.3 miles or whatever it is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. We've it's been difficult because my father is 88 and he's in a nursing home. He has dementia and Alzheimer's, and so we haven't been able to see him, it's difficult. He last time I saw him, it was actually we had a socially distanced 60th wedding anniversary for him and my mum in July, we got my mum got a telegram from the a card from the Queen.
Nice.
Because you can get that. So there's been some good things, but the nursing home have been really, they're saying, you can't come and see him, and actually it's the right thing.
Yeah.
Because I could be a carrier of COVID, and the last thing I'd want would be to take it into there and basically give it everybody.
Without wishing to go too personal there, I mean that is clearly a really tough situation. Have they been able to do any kind of things like this? Any Skype calls, FaceTimes, WhatsApp or videos, that kind of thing, to allow a connection still to carry on?
Their IT skills aren't brilliant.
Fair enough.
I had suggested it, and it kind of went quite early on. I think they have had some things where they were going to get a glass panel.
Yeah.
One of my concerns is my father won't. It will probably. The key thing is not to place my father at a position of either stress or confusion, and I'm not sure that he would actually understand what was coming through him through the computer screen. And I don't want to place him in, just because I feel that I need to see him, that I want to place him under any duress. And he won't remember. He doesn't know what he had for lunch, so
Sure.
or breakfast.
So it's hard enough doing it face to face, right?
So if I don't see him for 3 months, he doesn't understand time. It just gets up every day, and for him it's like Groundhog Day. You know, my mum rang him the other day and said that a really good friend of theirs they'd had for 50 years had died. And my father started crying my mum rang him the next day and said, do you remember what I told you about Roger? And he said, no, what was that?
Yeah, that's very tough.
You know, so you know, he just has no recollection. So well, that's just one of the challenges that we have. But you know, work-wise, everybody has to sell virtually. So
yeah, I think, you know, and thanks for sharing that, Tim. You know, that's hugely personal, but it's unfortunately all too common this year. It's been going on forever, but this year particularly has been far more difficult, having not been able to go in. So sincerely hope you're able to get back and see your father soon in a safe way. You mentioned that you read 30 odd books,
30
and
books, yeah, they'll be
I'm
about
giving it a darn good go this year. You know, I find that I have 7 or 8 books. I've said this before, about 7 or 8 books on the go, depending on the mood I'm in, the day I'm having, what I'm trying to achieve that day, the mindset that I want to get into, whether it be, you know, motivational stuff or business related or just a novel in some way, you know, which are my bedtime reading type books. I don't like to read books that make me think when I'm going to bed. Have you got a couple of books to share with us that that you think the viewers and listeners might be able to benefit from?
So I've read a lot of books. There's a book by Jason Redding called The Sales Journey. He's currently working at Hitachi, and it's really a book about his experience, not his journey, but some of the things. And he talks about the is it the MENPIC sales methodology?
Right.
And I'm currently reading a friend and ex-colleague of mine, Andy White, has actually just written a whole book about MENPIC, and that's what I'm currently reading at the moment. I've actually had to put, because I tend to get books and someone, can you read this? Or can you read this and give me a quote and stuff like that? So sometimes it gets interrupted. But I was reading a book about that I'm currently in the middle of, which is called Thinking in Bets, which is by she used to be one of the world champion poker player. And she talks about how decisions and outcome are not necessarily related. And what I mean by that is that quite often what happens is that you can make a good decision but have a bad outcome.
Sure, yeah.
And kind of what we think is that we go, bad outcome, that was a bad decision.
Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, you know, as you can imagine, when she's making decisions all the time, playing poker, but quite often in business you can make good decisions and have good outcomes, but you can make good decisions and have bad outcomes, and you can make bad decisions and have good outcomes. So and that's quite interesting, because she talks about gambling is not something I do, or something that, but you know, you kind of, she talks about it very much within her life, about from a poker perspective, which you can understand the metaphor.
Interesting. And am I right, in a conversation you and I have had previously, you've spoken about a book by David Premier, Sell the Way You Buy.
Oh yeah, Sell the Way You Buy. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Do you want to share insight on that one?
The company he was working for got bought out by Salesforce, and he's running basically a team of outbound sales team, cold callers, and then he realizes he's spending half of his time telling his people to make more calls, and then he's spending the rest of his time basically trying to stop cold calls coming in. And he has this sort of road to Damascus where he realizes that people don't buy the way that he's selling, and he comes up with a number of he makes a number of interesting things around the fact that salespeople do generally what they're told to do. So he said that one of the issues that we have is that salespeople are making all these cold calls, partly because the people upstairs are telling them to do that.
Yeah.
Rather than them actually saying there's other ways of doing it. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, so I read that recently. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, gosh. Tim,
the thing about it. Sorry, Lee. The thing about it is, it's not. There's a lot of sales books which are the same.
Yeah.
I've read pretty much all the sales, and they're all like, here's a section on cold calling, here's a section on email, and here's a section. And it's like, yeah, and you get another book, and they're all. And whereas David's is very different.
Yeah, and indeed, so is yours, the social selling one. You know, you were introduced to me through my network, and you very kindly sent me your book, and it's a little bit like when you're interviewing someone. I'm not sure I should share this online, but what the heck? You generally know within 30 seconds to a minute, but possibly even less, whether that person is right for the role and fits with the business. Generally, when I pick up a book, within 5, 10, 20 pages, I'm kind of like, all right, I'm just going to stick that on the shelf and come back to it.
Yeah.
22 pages into your book, I said, I want to speak to this guy. And that was the difference, and that was really.
You contacted me, and it's like, I'm 20 pages in your book, and I run a podcast, and can I talk to you?
Exactly. There was already enough within those 22 pages that was resonating with me. It wasn't sitting there saying, "Don't do this, don't do that. These are rubbish. That's rubbish." It was real, down to earth, genuine content that I was reading, going, yes, yeah, that's how I'm feeling. That's how people make me feel when they try and sell. I see that all the time within prospects and clients that I'm working within. You know, this guy's talking real sense.
Matt and I wrote it in a way that we wanted it to be a workbook that people could use. So it's not about us or our journey, or it gets straight in there, and it's practical. It's supposed to be totally practical.
Definitely.
And I've got people, I mean, there's 97 or 98 5-star reviews on Amazon, which is not bad. And I've got people that have read it multiple times, and they've got highlighted things, and they've got post-it notes and stuff in it. I went for when we wrote it, we brainstormed every chapter, and Matt and I would basically sit in our kitchen.
Matt Reynolds, right?
Yeah, Matt Reynolds, yeah, my co-author. And what we'd do is we got a flip chart, and we would basically write, what's this about? Okay, and we would sketch it all out. And the first time we did it, I'd been for a meeting with my sales VP at my previous company, and he was very enlightened, and he was really keen to experiment with this social stuff, which was really good. But he'd obviously had a hard time, because I went into a meeting, and I'm going to take the words beginning with F out. But he leant across the desk and said to me, "This social selling is all very well, but where's the effing leads?" And I said this to Matt, and he said, "That is, whenever we write a chapter, we're going to say that, and we're going to look at that and say, okay, so if it's a bit fluffy, right, where can people actually get leads? How can a salesperson really get business out of this chapter?" Yeah, and we did that every time we actually wrote a chapter, and so it's a practical book for people at the front line who want to actually get into social, and you be able to do something now practically. Obviously, you can't, if you buy a book on judo, you won't be an Olympic champion.
True.
But you know, at least you could go, yeah, I think I'll have I'll buy a whatever the gi or whatever they're thinking. Yeah, I'll buy a gi, and I'll go down the local, and I'll see what it's like. And I'll, you know, oh look, there's a no-goshi or whatever it was, and you know, you do the but you know, it will give you a basic and a place to start.
Fantastic. Tim, thank you. I'm so looking forward to continuing our relationship now that we've become connected. Really excited to continue reading the book now that I'm past those first 22 pages. I wish you every success with what you're doing and with your clients. And yeah, just finally, thank you so much for taking the time to
Lee, thank you so much for reaching out to me and contacting me, and for having me on your podcast. And I mean, it's, you know, I love what you're doing, and I think it's you know, more of it, please.
Appreciate it. Thanks everyone, and thanks for joining us on another episode of Business Source.